Me to hold on.
Everybody's at home watching the soccer.
It was.
Does anybody know the score? You know the score?
No, Italy is off, so who
Oh, you
cares?
Yeah. We're cheaper, yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Planning and Heritage Advisory Committee meeting for Thursday, June 11th, 2026. Before we get going, some housekeeping items. Remind people that West Hants Region Municipality acknowledges that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral home and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people, and this land is governed by the treaties of peace and friendship signed in 1726. West Hants Region Municipality recognizes that we're all treaty people and have responsibilities to this land and each other. West Hants Region Municipality further recognizes African Nova Scotians are a distinct people whose history, legacies, and contributions have enriched that part of Mi'kma'ki known as Nova Scotia for over 400 years. We acknowledge the historic and ongoing racism against these communities and committing to mending our relationship by listening, learning, and recognizing our wrongs. Council and I, as chair, are committed to ensuring this meeting and its participants conduct themselves in a respectful, professional manner, as outlined in the municipality's code of conduct. Meeting presenters, staff, and the public are expected to conduct themselves in a respectful manner while the meeting is being conducted. And members are reminded to use the microphone if they wish to speak. So Jane is joining us online, and she'll be able to hear us. Are there any announcements for this evening? Mark.
Yeah, I've got a few, so bear with me. June 20th, Saturday, 6 p.m. at the Upper Vaughan Community Hall. They are having a bingo night. There's seating for 50 and there's 47 seats reserved. So there's 3 seats available if anyone would like to join in. We'd like to have a full house for that one. And then on Thursday, June 25th, the monthly crib game is at the hall. It's also a full house usually for that, but we're always looking for more players, and play starts at 6:30 for that. And since Kayla's not here, I will throw a little announcement out for her as well. At the Fire Hall in Vaughan, the big breakfast is back on, so that starts Saturday at 8 a.m. So come on out if you need a big breakfast Saturday morning.
Nice. Perfect. I'll just tidy up the backtrack here just a little bit, just reminding people that in the event of a fire, the exits are there and there. The muster point is out in the parking lot. I'll be the last person to leave the building. I'll check to make sure everyone's out so we can take care of that. And I must mention that we do have regrets from Mayor Zabian this evening. Resident Member Davis is joining us online. So we do have quorum. And Guido, you had an announcement.
Oh.
He does not. Tim.
Yeah, I just want to say happy Pride to everyone. And I also want to say that the town of Hantsport is preparing once again for Canada Day. Preparations are underway, so we hope to see the many thousands of visitors that we see each year. So everybody, Canada Day, July 1st, we know when it is. Hantsport all day.
Perfect. That's our regular trip to Hantsport for Canada Day. It's the event. So what we'll be looking for now is a approval of the agenda. If there are any additions to the agenda or changes in the order, there being none, we could approve the agenda. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest of any of the matters being discussed this evening? None at this time. The approval from the minutes of the May 14th, 2026 meeting, that would be our last meeting. Any changes, omissions, deletions, corrections? Councillor Ivey?
Yeah, just two, if I could reference, there was 2 items that I'd raised that I thought were reasonably substantive, at least in my mind, maybe my mind only. But one was on the Wentworth Road Gateway District. And I know that got caught up in Acting Director Fougier's report that is included in there, but it didn't make the minutes. And the other item was the height restriction as it relates to Nesbitt Island. And I just think it's important just to note that they were discussed and to have them included. I apologize if I'm incorrect in my review of the minutes, but if they can just be identified.
Perfect. Thank you. Any other questions, concerns, comments about the minutes? No, there being none. With the exception of what Councillor Ivey brought up, we'll move them forward as they are. And new business. We have Planner Hong has a presentation, I believe, about rezoning of 5389 Highway 14, file 2607.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So the application before this committee tonight is about a rezoning application on 5398 Highway 14 in Curry's Corner. Start with some background. Our planning department received a completed application on April 26, 2026 this year from Maria Sico, the lead pastor of the Glad Tidings Worship Center. And the application proposed to rezone a portion of the subject lot from institutional to low-density residential to facilitate the subdivision process and a future residential use. And this slide shows the orthophoto for the subject lot, and the blue lines outline the property boundary, and the hatched area highlights the portion under consideration for rezoning tonight. The subject property currently contains a church building operated by the Glad Tidings Worship Center, and the surrounding area comprises a mix of low-density residential dwellings, vacant lots, and farms. And this map shows the generalized future map, land use map in our West Hands municipal planning strategy, which indicates the subject lot and the surrounding properties are all designated as residential. And according to the West Hands Land Use Bylaw zoning map, the subject lot is currently zoned institutional zone. Uses permitted in this zone include churches, community center, colleges, and both licensed and non-licensed daycare centers and other similar institutional uses. So if the rezoning application was approved, the subject lot will be zoned, well, a portion of the subject lot will be zoned low density residential R1. And this zone generally permits dwelling of up to 4 units. However, the subject lot is only serviced by municipal waters. Consequently, the maximum dwelling units as per the land use bylaw would be 2 units. And to provide some context on the site, this picture was taken last month, which shows the existing church building on the subject lot from Highway 14. And this is another view from Dill Road showing the approximate location of the subject property for rezoning, outlined with the yellow dashed line. Moving into the policy part, staff are mainly looking at 3 policy here. First is 5.1.3, which provides consultability to allow on-site sewage system to locate on lots fronting existing public street in areas which are not serviced with municipal sewer service. And the subject lot meets this criterion. And the next is our enabling policy 5.3.2, which provides council the ability to consider rezoning land within the 3 Mile Plains Growth Center to low-density residential R1 zone. And this policy has been considered met since the proposed rezoning portion is large enough to accommodate a private septic system, and the proposed use is not conflict with adjacent existing uses. And the final policy here would be 16.3.1, which is the general criteria in considering a land use bylaw amendment application. And in summary, this policy has been considered met since the proposal is not considered premature or inappropriate for the area. No municipal costs related to the proposal are anticipated. And the fire chief, development officer, manager of building and fire inspection services, area manager of the Nova Scotia Department Department of Public Works and the Public Works Engineering Division have no concern which have not been addressed in this staff report. So as part of the process, staff held a public information meeting on May 20th, and approximately 6 members from the public attended that meeting. And after the meeting, the public comment period was open until June 3rd, and during which staff received 1 email and 1 phone call, which contains at the end of my staff report. And as for the process to date, the application is before the Planning Advisory Committee this evening for your recommendation. Following tonight's meeting, staff plan to bring this application forward to council for first and second reading. If council approves this application, a notice of approval will be published in the newspaper, which will initiate a 14-day appeal period during which the decision may be appealed to the Nova Scotia Regulatory and Appeals Board. So that's the extent of my presentation, and I have the recommendation on the screen and happy to take any question the committee may have. Thank you.
Mark.
How many, what's the square footage of the lot?
I believe that's in my staff report. So currently the subject property is approximately 2.7 acre land, and the portion of being rezoned would be approximately 0.78 acres.
You don't have the footage?
I don't have the footage off top of my head.
Well, it's just our bylaws are in footage, so our square feet. So that's the only reason I was asking. So
Sorry, was your question regarding the
lot size?
The lot size. I think if Carrie
I
wants
just
to.
did the math. It's approximately 33,976 square feet.
And the reason I'm asking for that, and you see it says it meets septic size for septic. I'm just dealing with another issue where a lot met the size, but then the soil was a different soil, so they had to increase the size of the lot. Has that been done? The soil's been looked at. It's good for the septic.
So through chair to the committee member, so that with respect to the soil assessment, that was not part of this application criteria or any sort of thing. That would be through the permitting stage, where any proposed owner would be required to provide the septic approval letters to our development officer to ensure that the property is good to accommodate the septic system. So as for now, this would be only a rezoning consideration, and more details would be part of the consideration during the permitting stage.
Okay. And so, sorry, if I may, one more question, Chair. What is the distance of the lot from the agricultural land?
Maybe let me pull up the zoning map on the screen here. So the distance between the lot to the nearest agricultural land, which is across the street, I don't have the width of the Highway 14, so the distance would be the width of the Highway 14 currently. So this lot, the current property sits directly across from the agricultural land, if that answers the question.
It does. Is there a restriction of how close you can develop to a agricultural land?
I don't believe there is a restriction as to how much of setback you will have to be away from the agricultural land.
You say there is none.
There is not.
Okay, that's great. No, because I just want to say, it does break my heart to see them selling this lot to generate income for their worship center. So I'd like to see this go really well for them. So it's good.
Guido, you had a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to know what was the content of the one email and one phone call? received from the public.
Future to the committee member Guido. That's a really good question. So the email and the phone call was from the same person who is the neighbor of the subject property. And she was basically asking me, and what is this rezoning about? And I basically told her there was a recording that she could watch online. So I provided the link to our YouTube page. So after she watched the YouTube recording, she didn't have any other question for me.
Thank you.
That would be, you did follow up on that. That's the neighbor immediately behind the Heinz. Perfect. I just in the thread here, there wasn't a response as to what, if any comments she had, but if perfect. Thank you. Any other questions on this? Well, we have a recommendation if somebody would like to.
I will
Go ahead.
read it if you'd like. Yeah. So the recommendation is that PACAC recommends that council give first reading and hold a public hearing to consider amending the maps of Schedule A of the West Hants Land Use Bylaw to rezone a portion of lot as identified as PID 450-75439 from institutional I to low density residential R1 zone, as shown in the report number 26-07 to the Planning and Heritage Advisory Committee dated June 11, 2026.
Anybody second that? All right. All those in favor of that recommendation? Opposed? Recommendation carried. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, moving along now, we have a plan review recommendation report with Director of Planning Fougere.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, everything's up there. Okay, we are back with the plan review, and tonight we are seeking some recommendations from the committee on the draft regional planning documents. So I'm just going to provide a quick overview presentation, and then we can get into questions and the recommendations and kind of go from there. So as a reminder, this has been a long ongoing project, but we hired WSP back in 2023, and we've gone through these 4 phases, and now we're in the final phase here of seeking recommendations and ultimately council adoption on the planning documents. So there's been a significant amount of public engagement, background, data collection, research, internal conversations with departments and external agencies and stakeholders. So it's been quite the process. Just to follow up on the community and stakeholder engagement. So as you all are aware, there were several different public open houses, surveys. We've had some workshops with council. We also had our workshop with this committee last month at that meeting. We've had some ongoing updates, and the drafts were available online as well earlier this year at the end of last year. To seek kind of final comments and questions about the documents. And there's been kind of ongoing stakeholder meetings and one-on-one meetings with some external agencies. And all of that information has been taken into consideration in the drafting of these documents. So the project objective, so the main objective of this project was to consolidate and modernize and align the planning framework. So we have the 3 sets of planning documents from the previous municipalities. So the main goal post-consolidation is to consolidate into one set of planning documents with one vision and direction for growth and development moving forward. Also to improve clarity, efficiency, and predictability within our planning framework, support complete inclusive communities, plan for sustainable and resilient growth, and reflect community values and priorities within our documents. So this slide just demonstrates the 3 previous, or the 3 existing, I guess I should say, planning documents or sets of planning documents that we have, and the goal to consolidate it into one, the West Hants Regional Municipality municipal planning strategy, land use bylaw, and subdivision bylaw. So just a quick overview of the information session that we held with this committee back in May. So there was a number of topics discussed and a lot of great conversations and opportunities to answer questions and follow up on a few things. So some of the major topics we discussed were the view plane policies, household livestock and hand sport was a big topic, general resource zoning, height allowances, and other questions and discussions around general items and clarifications of policy. So we have made an update to that view plane policy as we discussed, and would recommend that the committee add additional recommendations if they so wish, on any additional topics or major areas of study. So some important considerations we wanted to highlight before we get to the recommendations tonight. So while these documents provide a framework for growth over quite a long horizon of 25 years, they are intended to be living documents and updated from time to time. So reviews are often completed on a 5 to 10 year cycle. So we do have policy written into the documents that we would update the documents at least every 10 years or based on direction from council or from the provincial government. Amendments will also happen from time to time throughout the life of the document. So that could be staff-led amendments based on council direction, new priorities, responding to new plans and studies. So if there's a new plan that comes into place, like an active transportation plan, for example, we would have a look at our documents and make sure that they are in alignment. Amendments could also be focused from developer or resident requested amendments to respond to proposed developments. So like the rezoning application you heard earlier this evening. Housekeeping amendments to allow for continuous improvement to the document. So as staff starts to work and implement the documents, we might find little things here and there that we would bring forward to this committee and council to suggest changes just to improve efficiency, clarity, fix interpretations, things like that. And then any provincially mandated amendments, so any requirements from the province to update our documents based on minimum planning standards. So this project has been ongoing for several years and is a very important next step post-consolidation. The documents really improve our current framework, reduce inconsistencies across communities, adds more certainty for landowners, and allows staff to respond to new priorities. So we've built in different things like new approaches to stormwater management in the documents based on what we've heard through planning applications and other concerns happening in the community. So these new policies will help staff respond to a lot of those concerns that have been brought up. And then, of course, having the consolidated set of documents will help improve workflow and allow staff more time to focus on other major projects. So I've identified in there coastal planning. So that is something on our radar to spend some time researching and doing a separate and public engagement on and bringing forward future amendments to our documents. And that could be a range of any other types of topics or anything that, the committee may recommend or council may direct us to look into. So in terms of next steps, so seeking recommendations tonight from the committee, and those recommendations would go to council for consideration at first reading, followed by a public hearing and second reading. And then ultimately, we require approval from the province before the documents can come into effect. From there, I have 3 sets of recommendations. So one is for the municipal planning strategy, one is for the land use bylaw, and one is for the subdivision bylaw. And each of the recommendations includes repealing the existing document. So if we're recommending to approve the new regional MPS, we would be effectively repealing the 3 existing municipal planning strategies, and same things applies for the land use bylaw and subdivision bylaw. So with that, happy to answer any questions or concerns or, discuss the recommendations or any changes, additions, or the will of the committee.
Thank you. I just wanted to check to see that Jane didn't want to go first because I know I know your hand's not up, Jane, but I thought you.
If you'd like to go, Jane, you certainly. I know you're on a time constraint.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to Carrie. A little disappointed that the public feedback from the access to the documents from earlier this year were promised at our last meeting, and I don't see them included anywhere, so we have no idea what the feedback was for that. And a little disappointed and discouraged to see again that Hantsport is being held out as a separate entity when we should be inclusive with all other areas. And that's all I have for right now, and I'll let Tim continue on. He knows what I wanted to say, but thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Tim.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to draw things back. If I could, if you wouldn't mind on the screen putting up the project objectives again from the slideshow. I want to start by saying I was there all those years ago, that very first meeting, and I've loved watching this process happen. I didn't realize it was as big as it was when I was there, you know, a couple of years ago. So I just want to commend staff on all the work, because there's been a ton of it, and you know, staff know that better than anyone, how long this has been going on, and you know, it started well before that first meeting. So I just also want to say that I really fully support this process and the recommendations that are being made, but I have to draw it back to the question of equity when it comes to Hantsport and Windsor, our two townships, and the historical sort of issue that there has been with livestock, namely, you know, laying hens. Our communities are very, very similar in terms of density. Oh, Windsor would be denser, in fact, than Hantsport. I don't know the full history of the decision of when the decision was made to not allow this in Hantsport, but I do know that it was a couple of councils ago. And my impression and understanding of this entire process based on the objectives is that we're trying to sort of you know, regionalize ourselves and make things easier and to create, and you know, equity is a strong word, but I'm going to use it, equity between our communities. And certainly I feel that it does exist, you know, in most other ways, but with this one issue, I'm just gonna just for a moment, I have a couple of things to say. So I mentioned that it was a historical decision. I have no memory of when it happened, and I'm a very engaged resident. I don't know if there was a public process involved, or if it was just something that maybe happened because, you know, Hantsport was new to the region. This decision, by the way, about the hens and livestock was made before we were even a region, like before Windsor even amalgamated. So I think that it might be prudent to give our elected council for this new region the opportunity to at least discuss it. And I'm not going to make amendments or try to make changes or anything. I just think that I'd like it noted somewhere. And I know we have members of our council here, so you know, these are things they remember and discuss as well. But I just would like to see if we're talking about making things cohesive and inclusive and you know, predictable for people looking to live in Windsor, Hantsport, maybe a young family, someone in 4-H, you know, it's just not an option for people in our communities, despite the fact that it resembles this community very similarly in every other way. So that's my only note. I would just, you know, for staff, you know, as this moves forward, it would be nice if like there were a little asterisk to just say, you know, and I know that it will be included in the discussion and all that happened. I think that you should give maybe, you know, council the opportunity, or even the community, to make a decision like this, because I know, and Jane will agree with me on this, on the street that Jane and I live on, we have more new neighbors than we can, you know, keep up with. People come and go. So it's a very different community than it was all those years ago, way before COVID, when this decision was made. So that's really all I have to say. But I do want to end by saying, like, the work, again, that staff have done is incredible, and I'm very supportive of this process.
Perfect. Thank you. Mark?
Yeah, I echo Tim's comments about being supportive for the process. I think this is long overdue, and it needs to be done. And again, same as what Tim said, it's a pile of work, and everyone's done a great job putting this all together. My issue comes with how it's been presented to us, and this is what I struggle with. It's basic, you know, I've been a part of the process. You know, I've done the surveys, I've gone to the public meetings, and all of this, but I can still go through it and find things every time that are different, that if I didn't go in and have to dig through it, it would have just went by, and maybe I have an issue, maybe I don't have an issue with it. It's been very difficult, and I would have liked to seen. I know it's a huge process, but I would have liked to seen every single change highlight it, and reasons why the change is being made, and a discussion on each one. And I know that's a huge undertaking, and maybe out of the scope of this committee, I'm not sure, but I can't support or uh, not support it, because I just feel like I'm voting on something I really don't have 100% understanding of what's in it. And there's just so much in there, and there's so many pages to go through, and it's kind of a, here it is, go find it, right? And I just didn't like the way it's being presented to committee. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Guido.
Well, first off, I echo the issue of hand sport. In a nutshell, just to understand for myself, basically they cannot have hands in hand sport, which I found ridiculous, because we are going toward food independence and regional accountability, and what do you call it? No work in the last mile, whatever is consuming less. And I think very silent hands without a rooster will be allowed everywhere you have a little bit of space, because it's food, and eggs and chicken are very easy to grow and very healthy and organic. So I would highly recommend council to reconsider, and before moving ahead with approving anything, putting that on tabula rasa and have everybody having equal rights, or inquiring with the country, with the village. The second thing I echo, so my friend Mark here basically gave voice to my thoughts. It felt like the big, beautiful bill of Donald Trump, those omnibus where you have this big thing and you go like, yeah, and you pass a million laws, because, in the committee, in the Police Advisory Board committee, and I'm not critiquing or complaining, I'm just saying what I'm perceiving, like Mark does. In the Police Advisory Board, we are having a workshop to discuss about the mission statement of something, right? I think that this thing should be workshopped. We would need to be updated, because, in order to read the Bible, we take years and we begin very young. And here we have this tome, and none of us is a lawyer. I mean, I'm not. And so, the truth is, last time I presented a story in disguise. I said that someone told me something. Well, that someone is me. In this thing, I approved something that stripped me of rights on my land. That's the truth. I've been downgraded from R4 to R3. I approved to my own demise. Can you believe it? And when I learned it, I felt twice idiot, because I'm sitting here. So that's it. And that's the truth. And the truth must be told all the time, regardless. The truth must be told. So last time I used a story in disguise, and you asked me about it. Well, it's me. It happened. Am I happy? Not an ounce. Am I taking massive action? I am, in a proper way, not legal, and doing what I can. But it's been hard. And because there was no presentation, or the people like me with those 3 or 4 acres have not been informed that that was going to happen. I learned it when it was approved. So, like Mark, I cannot say, yeah. I cannot say nay. I say, Bo, thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Councillor Larry Pinch.
Thank you, through you, Chair. So, as you smile. So I did some digging on secondary egress, common waste collection in other municipalities that are adjacent and in proximity to ours. Halifax requires it for any subdivision which is 30 lots or more. So we've had a number of new ones specifically in my district, but in other places that are 30 lots or more for which, because it's not in our documents, it was not required. And common garbage collection, they have within their subdivision bylaw. So I guess I'm curious where that falls for us, because we recently just had a committee of the whole decision that will be coming to council on Tuesday night to deal with one particular issue with the private road development, but it's just their ongoing concerns. And in speaking to representatives from the other municipalities, they said the only way that it can be managed and controlled is to ensure that it's in our documents, so that when those things come to planning, there is something in place that it's required for everybody, not on a case by case basis. So I know we had a discussion and we're not really, so I just kind of want to put that back on the table for wherever it can belong or how we can get it to be there. Because for two reasons, wildfires are on the rise. We see it across the province. We're getting drier, not more moisture. So those secondary egress for developments that are 30 lots or more would be prudent for resident safety, I feel. And then the common waste collection area, because we know that we have those ongoing concerns. So I'm just not sure where they belong. I know we're not really certain that they belong within these documents, but then if not in these, how do we go about that? So I just kind of wanted to put that back out there, that I did some digging and it does exist in other municipalities for those restrictions.
Perfect. Thank you. Glenn?
Yes, I also like to comment on the document being very large, and it is impossible to cover the whole document and look for line by line and go through it and compare it to the previous documents. So I concentrated on the lowest hierarchy in the planning, which is the general resource. So I concentrated on general resource, and I came across something interesting in the municipal planning strategy. I think it was page 14, I believe. Bad eyes. Anyways, it was actually the resource, general resource, and there's a language in there, there's a line in there that residential development is discouraged. Now, I went back to the municipal planning strategies, the existing municipal planning strategy. In that line, I didn't see the word discouraged. So just me, discourage is stronger language. It's almost like there's a campaign of discouragement or something like that. But no, it's just, it's in the policies. That discouragement is in the policies. I don't think you need to actually say it, that it's discouraged. It's just, you know, the policy is as it is, and there are restrictions in some cases, like the larger lots was to discourage residential development, strip development. But I did not see that line in the language. So I was just wondering where that language came from, and is there actually something for the basis on that?
Can you point us to the section?
That's section, you know, I have reading glasses. Section 3.5, municipal planning strategy. And I believe it's page 19. Municipal planning strategy. While residential development will be discouraged on resource homes. That line just sort of creeped in there. I don't know what it came from. And it's just strong language. It sounds like there's it's saying that there's something verbal to that, discouraging. But actually just in policy, you don't have to actually say it.
Definitely. Yeah, we can take a look at kind of making sure that line, because I think you're right. I don't know if it's necessarily discouraged. It's just the other uses are encouraged and residential as a secondary use. So yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Councillor Ivey.
Thank you, Chair. So I guess the first question that I'll put out is that as part of the notes in the summary of the previous meeting, and I know that Acting Director Fougere shared with us the presentation provided by Public Works in October of 24, which I didn't write back to say, but 1 year earlier, they had done the same thing. October of 23, they gave a presentation because we've been asking so many questions about water, sewer, capacity, and so on. So it was really helpful to see that second one that I'd forgotten about. I guess I got focused on 23 and forgot 24. So that was helpful, but in your note that you comment about coming back to committee with information, because the issue that was identified specifically was water, I think, as it related to Hansport for capacity. Was there anything else that you had to share, or was it the essence of what you were going to share intended to be the video of the presentation previously done?
Through you, Chair. Yeah, I believe if I recall, the conversation was questions around capacity. And I think there was some conversation too around what that meant in terms of the amount of units or population that the remaining capacity could support. So I essentially just wanted to share that information or reshare it, because in that presentation for each water treatment and sewage treatment plan, I think they've had that detail. So yeah, it was just kind of resharing that information.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure that we weren't skipping over something you were going to give to us. And so thank you for that. As a general comment, similar to the other folks that have spoken before me, that certainly appreciate the process and the work that gets undertaken in trying to aggregate together 3 planning documents from 3 similar but completely different areas. We talk about Hansport and Windsor. We talk about growth zone, but Hansport is not quite as large as Windsor, but has its own characteristics, as does Windsor. No different than the same comparison that could be made with the other 2 growth areas that we have within our documents, being Falmouth and 3 Mile Plains. Again, both suburban like growth centers, but each one of them unique and special in their own way. And so in that regard, the one comment I'll make, again, supporting the process and the amount of work that took to get us to this point, but the word of workshop was put out, and I agree that that would have been and is actually what I believe to be the best path forward with these documents that are 300 pages of highly technical information on planning, land use, and the like. That there might be one on growth centers, that would be Hansport and Windsor. That'd be a night that could easily be a 2 to 3 hour session. As it relates to the documents, the same thing with Falmouth and 3 Mile Plains could easily be a night of its own, and then rural West Hants. And whether I'm not being fair to rural West Hants and only saying a night for all of that, but I just think that to truly understand the implications and the integration of what's taking place here is really important. And as an example, is that we identify in here that as it relates to different changes made related to land use regulations, that as the example given here was setbacks, and where the discussion on that was that where there was a difference, the less stringent one is what was adopted. And so I went to look to try and find, and of course I looked at Windsor's first, being representing that area, and I didn't see any changes for Windsor. So I'm okay, but no time existed to go through and check for any others that may have been made or not been made, which goes to a comment made previously as it relates to being able to see the changes that have been made, to be able to judge them based on what they are. It's all but impossible. I could dedicate a week to working through here, trying to match up previous documents with this, or I can accept on faith that we've got everything right in here. And I just don't think that we should be accepting on faith, given that we're being asked to approve legislative changes that will affect land use, permissions and rights as a right, requiring agreements and the like. My comments are not meant to be critical in any fashion, especially given the amount of work and the time that's gone into this. I know when you work really hard in something and you get to a point where you're going, we've got to be done. But I think we still have to get back to this, I'll call, the B phase of what's already been a multi-phase approach. Because to date, and I'm repeating myself with what I said previously, is that we've been talking to the point of getting the documents out in the last month at this table, but in the last 6 months, since December, January, when you went to the public online again, we've been talking at the theoretical level of philosophically what we would see by way of growth centers and rural and suburban. And so here we are. And I've been involved in planning for a long time. I'm not the example of perhaps the best planning committee member that there is. I'm not, or even close, but I've certainly been around the table long enough that I'm not having to sort through some of the detail of things to figure out what the meaning is and what's in front of us. So that's my general comment on process. I don't know what the setbacks are that have been changed or other matters. There are two areas that I will want to speak to, and I'll touch on them. I referenced them the last meeting, and I'll turn the mic over to anybody else. But the two matters that I'm likely prepared to talk about by way of motions or recommendations to council. One has to do with the Nesbitt Island District, where the general Nesbitt Island policies states underneath policy 5.196B that the building in no instance will exceed 210 feet, 64 meters in height. So that section of the Nesbitt Island district allows up to four stories as a right, but anything beyond that, which allows a height up to 210 feet. In my mind, it does two things. One, it sets an expectation. It sets an expectation that it can be applied for, but two, it also sets a restriction. In other words, it can't be more. And I just think that 210 feet, honestly, as I said the last time, that's 30 feet less than the Bank of Montreal Tower in Halifax. It's probably twice the height of Kroll Tower at Acadia. I just don't see that as being part of the vision that anybody, I can't actually, there are some people here that would like to see that. To be fair, there are people that told me they can't believe I speak against it. I just don't think that's in our broader, bigger interest. So I'm going to, I'll have that. I'll just set that aside. But the 210 feet criteria I'd look to see removed. And then the other criteria goes to an issue on Wentworth Road where, there's aspects of this that we talked about that didn't get addressed over the volume of time that you've invested in the project. One of them is signage is in there, the aggregation of the growth centers, which you have done in a technical aspect, but not with input. I don't think from a council or committee standpoint and how we see those evolving. And we've had many conversations through Mile Plain specifically on the density that we expect to see there, and Hansport as well, and with the restrictions. So the final point there that I'd look to make is on Wentworth Road, where not too dissimilar to downtown Windsor, but it's a commercial district, and we don't allow residential on the ground floor in the commercial district, which I actually support. Ground floor isn't right to have it open. But to have it on the ground floor, on the back side, the non-public facing side, a section where it could be a ground floor, a unit that isn't facing the street, I think is appropriate to allow permissions for that. Not everybody can get up to a second floor or is comfortable being on a second floor. And it may only be it's the like of a worker owner suite for late nights, who knows? But so those are the two matters that I'd look to put, other committee members may want to weigh in on that if they understand them well enough. But those are the two key points in the current document. I too am concerned about being able to prove a document that has council deciding and making direction on all the policies that are in there, given the volume of the changes and the amount of time to fully understand their integrations. That's it for me at the present time. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Really appreciate the comments, especially being fairly new into Eller's House. Coming from Kings County, I remember when 2050 was there, and as a residential owner on Lake George, I was taken back of what was trying to be put forward, and I didn't know at the time, and that document woke me up. So I think, Mark, your comments too, it was like, could this happen? Why couldn't it? It's got to be somewhere. Copy and paste these days. I think that would give validity and transparency to the hard work and the many, many hours that staff have put in. This is not an easy thing to do. And then everybody does know on what has been changed, because many of them probably do have to be changed. But I think then that transparency goes to everyone, and they have their say and understand. I think going forward, then anything that's been passed is I want to say easier, because we've all understood what that document looks like. Being off of exit 4, seeing Eller's House as a local center and no private roads, I find is that limiting, where we're so close, 25 minutes out of Sackville. Is our growth only in Windsor, Hansport, Falmouth, and 3 Mile Plains? Once this document's going to be for 25 years, and does that really limit us? So those are my comments, but I would really absolutely love to see that, what has been changed, sit in a workshop, ask more questions, because these documents are overwhelming. And I think people, when they look at them, they look at one lens. What they look at is interest them, and what they don't see is what they don't realize should interest them. So thank you.
Perfect. I'll flip a coin. I don't know who was first. Go ahead, Guido.
Sure. Well, I say it as it come to me from my heart. If you don't take a page from the book of 2020 with the word informed consent, we haven't learned a thing from what happened in 2020. And what happened in 2020, we have the results today in hospitals. I'm not vaccinated, and I decided not to be following my own gut. But what was used then as informed consent was the doctor telling you, you take it. That is not the way. And there are today people that are paying a very high cost for that, very high. And I cried my eyes out many times for friends that are not here with me anymore. The way is total, integral transparency. And so I believe that the immense work and beautiful work that this staff has put in this job, and because this work will go on for 25 years, and has happened in Kentville, it needs to be totally crystal clear to all of us. And if we need to workshop it, we workshop it. So I already tell you tonight what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to approve it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lubich.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I just have a couple of questions about 3.5, which is like resource areas. So under policy 3-34, it's like accommodate limited development in resource areas based on capacity of individual on-site water and sewage services. There are no services in resource areas. That would be like wells and cisterns and other. So I just don't know that the word services is appropriate there because they're not receiving services, and that we're using that to accommodate limited, like as the evidence for why there's limited development. And then query, I know that wind energy is in there. We know it's controversial. I think it's, everybody knows how I've spoken about it. But does it have to say encourage renewable energy? Can it say permit? Because we're permitting, it says permit development on private roads, seasonal dwellings. But then when it comes to renewable energy generation, such as wind farms, it's that we're encouraging it. So what does that mean? Does that mean that we are going out and trying to solicit wind energy to come based on this plan? Or because really it's based off of a development agreement when it comes to wind energy for the resource, which means that they are applying to us and then we're following through the process. So the language encourage just kind of leads me down a different path. And it's just interesting. And I have to make the comment. I understand provincially we are where we are, but that we are going to preserve and enhance the rural character of resource areas and protect wildlife habitat, while we are also encouraging basically the deforestation to provide large turbines that are larger than the size of the building that Councillor Ivey spoke about in Halifax. So it's just interesting language. It's a little contradictory, but if we could look at the services part and the encourage part, I would appreciate that, because I know I will bring it up at council when it comes. Is that from provincial language that it says encourage, or is that just?
Yeah, so to speak to the encourage, not necessarily, like encourage is just a common word used in an MPS policy that, yeah, not that it's not implying that we are going out and soliciting and trying to bring, it's just that you encouraging renewable resources as part of the resource zone, that's kind of sort of solidifying that, the paramount goal of the resource area is for resource uses. So that's really the intent. I mean, we can certainly change the word to permit if that's the recommendation that you want to make.
Okay, I'll sit on it for a second, and I'll look at other documents before it comes back to us at the other tables. Thank you.
And your question on, it was on 334.
Yeah, the services.
Okay, so yeah, I'm reading that as based on the capacity of individual on-site water and on-site sewage. So that would be well and septic. So
Okay.
yeah, not municipal sewage and water services.
Okay.
Perfect. Tim. Mark, right.
I wasn't going to comment, Chair, but I just want to tie two comments from Kayla and to my left here is this was an issue we had with one of our recent development permits that went to the judicial for review, and it came down to pattern of development, and even the municipality supported that a permitted use for pattern of development was outweighed by a non-permitted use for pattern development. And I think the language, discouraging residential homes and encouraging wind energy is creating more language to cultivate that. And I think that's wrong. I don't think a non-permitted use should ever trump a permitted use in a resource zone. And I do agree with the comment that resources in a resource zone, they should be encouraged, but permitted resource development should be encouraged. Non-permitted is through development agreement, and that is under review for each application. So I do that, and I missed both of those. Going back to the other point about the language and stuff, I didn't pick up on those when I went through it. So I just want to comment that I do think that needs adjusting.
Perfect. Thank you. Anybody else have anything? Tim.
Okay, this my final comments. I'm not really sure how they're going to go, but this is why I love committees like this, because you hear what people have to say and then it makes you think of something else. And hearing people, I have to confess, like, specific language is not something that I was really looking for when I read through this thing twice, or the whole thing twice, because I was really just trying to catch the key points, and because we've all said it's a big document. So what I hear around this table is, and I know this from my experience as chair, is that we're going to get to a point in this meeting where we're going to have to decide something, whether we make recommendations or we don't. And that's fine, because we know that this process continues. And that's great. And, we've been told it's a fluid document and all these things, and things can change in the future. But I do also, I think, support, and I don't know if I'm throwing anyone under a bus by saying this, but I would support myself. I would definitely sit down in a room with other like-minded people who want to really examine this much material, and make a really great recommendation to our council, like one that we all feel really good about, instead potentially of one that we feel very rushed to make. And I know that this is the process, and that decisions get made, and things come up on the screen and we have to decide yes or no. But I don't know if it is within the capacity of this municipality or its committees to explore opportunities for a bit of outreach within the committee itself, or we could involve other members of the public. Maybe people are listening and they're interested in this process, because I do feel reluctant to, and like I said, I am supportive of this process and these recommendations, but the conversation that I'm hearing from the collective group is that I'm starting to doubt myself, because, all the comments you're making about specific language and what that means. And language, and we talked about this in our last meeting, is so important, because when it comes to a court of law, it's the language that they're going to pay attention to. And we live in a municipality where people have this right, and there's this wonderful process where we can, if we want to sort of protest something, we can, but I don't want to kneecap our population by forwarding necessarily a document that might necessarily harm landowners in any way, because we haven't had the time to really look at that language and those specific words that are used. I don't know if that's a possibility. I'm just, I know that our chair is wondering where this meeting is going to go and all of that stuff. So, I would support certainly additional things. I know our accessibility committee, for example, they've been to Hansport, they've visited Hansport, they have meetings in various places in our community. maybe our committee needs to think about upping our game a bit when it comes to things that are really, really critical and potentially for the next 25 years for people who live here or who will. So anyway, that's just my thought.
Thank you for that. As chair of the accessibility committee, I can say we've got quite a road show going on. So I will. Resident member Davis had to step away, so she did have a question. I think it's already been brought up, but just to do service, she asked me to just make sure it got on the record. She just had a concern about the one entrance and egress into developments and whatnot, that she didn't feel that was addressed to her satisfaction in the documents. And she wanted to make sure that was noted. So that was something she had, and she'll have something else on the Pontic Road development. I'll wait to bring that up then. Mark.
I'm not 100% on the process, but I'm willing to make a motion. I just don't know how to properly word it, but it would be along the lines of, if the committee would request council to direct staff to provide us some workshops and explanations with the changes in the new bylaw proposal.
Certainly, I guess for where my head is whatever we do or don't do tonight, council decides how this unfolds. So do we say we want to go and do outreach, or does council, in their consideration of it, say we need to direct staff to do outreach? I don't know where our mandate lands with that. Councillor Larry Pinch.
No, I don't have all the answers, but there's just a thought off the top of my head. It might be helpful if PAC made a recommendation that, council and PAC committee members sit down and have a workshop that is solely based on this 300 and etc. page document, even if it's a couple of hours. Because I think even from the council perspective, for me, it would be helpful if we had time that was dedicated solely to this, not inside of a committee of the whole or a council meeting, because that's a lot to try and discuss, and sometimes you feel crunched for time, and it would be nice not to feel crunched for time and kind of have everything flushed out before it gets to that point, which could also potentially, I know member Davis mentioned about the public commentary or feedback that was received. It would allow us to potentially have a general document about what that feedback was, I guess, as well. I don't know.
Through you, Chair, just to speak to the summary of engagement, it is included in the agenda package as attachment 5 on page 377 of the agenda.
My apologies. I didn't go looking for it when I read through the agenda, so thank you for pointing that out. You said it was on page, sorry, can you say that one more time?
I believe it's 377, but it's attachment 5 of this item.
That's great. It is 377. Go ahead.
I was just going to add that having this workshop opportunity allows us all to enrich our learning of the document. If we're out in the community, we can talk better about it. And as a PAC member, I would really value that as being that extension of council to be able to talk about and reinforce the great work that, staff did, but really have a better understanding to talk, because there is so much, then not have that backing. And even if I'm reading it and I see it one way, hearing it another way is I might get it wrong. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I'd just like to note that as a minimum, I'd like to have another opportunity to look at this before I'm comfortable voting on it. That's all.
Perfect. Thank you. Guido.
I'm touched by, what's your name? Huh?
Beth.
Beth. I'd never met you before, and it's like we're talking the same language. I am a professional coach, and something I learned over my career around the world in different languages is that space has intelligence. There is an intelligence in the space, and tonight I'm amazed to see it coming together through many voices to many mouths in a beautiful way. And I would love to see this workshop, even with a lot of people sitting there, maybe not intervening, maybe not sitting at the table here and talking, but listening. Because the more ears listen to something intelligent, the effect of intelligence is exponential. We all learned something from each other tonight. If it was a piece of truth, if it was a piece of spirituality or a piece of philosophy. And the more we are, the more intelligent we become. So I would love this workshop, when it happens, to have double intelligences in that department there, even just listening. That's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ivey.
Yeah, I guess just the one comment that'll add to what's being said is, to be really frank, is that depending on what kind of time you're looking at, if you're looking at a full day, you might be able to work your way through what's in front of us. To be honest with you, I think, again, depending on the depth that people want to get into or how much you want to get inside it, but generally it's been commented here about an hour or 2 hours and a workshop, and I just don't think that's going to be sufficient to get people through it. And I just put that out in the context of thinking about, what people's expectations are for being able to line things up. Again, 3 documents, which was 6, now condensed into 3, which is, so it's a lot.
I tend to agree with Councillor Ivey there. Just the sheer magnitude to give it. If you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound. So to me, it's a day exercise at least if you want to give a fulsome review of it. Guido.
Well, yes, thank you, Jim. I am actually I've been in this. When was it? Last fall. We went down to the whatever inn in Kentville, and we had this police advisory board committee. It was a full morning. It was interesting. It was lovely, and we actually did a great job, great work. It takes time, but I would be willing to put in the time to do that myself. I think probably half a day, like 4 hours in the morning or an afternoon, would be the minimum to begin to see something here with thorough study of the Bible there, of the tome, and no disrespect, but and then all the items workshopped out. Yeah, again, just 2 cents.
Great.
And I don't have the motion yet.
That's okay. So I guess that bring us back around to the recommendation. It sounds like, if I'm reading right, the comments around the table seem to be more, we're not even really into the nuts and bolts of it. We're just about the process so far. So maybe we need to consider a motion that preempts what's recommended here, because I don't know, based on what I'm seeing around the table, I don't know that there's comfort on going forward with that, or do we put that forward and vote as it goes?
Are we able to table the motion while we deal with searching for more information?
I was just gonna ask, still manager food? Yes, thank you, manager Fugier. Is it already on the agenda at a certain date to come back? So does the wiggle room exist since we're having this conversation, or does it have to go to committee of the whole to have the conversation about potentially doing this and sending it back for a workshop or to council?
So typically we would seek a recommendation. So whether it's a positive recommendation or a negative recommendation, and whatever comes out of this committee tonight, we would take to the next council meeting.
I think that's my comments originally, I think echoed Councillor Larry Pinch's, was that where does that decision get made? Is it in train now where it lands at committee of the whole or council, and then the onus shifts to council to say, we need to want to workshop this or not?
Next week to coming to council. Oh, yeah, we just had, sorry. It's been a long month and it's only halfway. Okay, so there's in 10 days, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so with that, I don't know how much the wiggle room is, how much it exists. So I don't know what, Mark, you have a comment while we
Well, I
process
do.
this.
It is on the time. I'm frustrated with the time because I knew when we were canceling PACAC meetings that this was coming down the tubes, and I don't know why we didn't utilize some of that time then to review this more in depth instead of canceling the meetings. And I had also inquired what the process was going to be for presenting this, and it was kind of met with, well, here we are today. So time wise, my question is there something, a deadline on the administrative side that has to be met to have this completed? Or does pushing it out a month, is it devastating, or is it just something we can do?
There's no legislated timeline to have these documents adopted.
Councillor Pench, I'll get to you, Guido.
Oh, sorry, Guido. I didn't even notice.
Oh, sure. Well, to answer Mark, which we always say things eye to eye, is would a month be devastating, or would be 25 years of not understanding being devastating?
Oh, sorry, Tim.
Hey, I'm always trying to like figure out the room and try to solve problems. So we're talking about extra time. We're all thinking it. I think that we'd all sort of like it. And knowing that some people sitting around this table, are members of council. The sense that I'm getting from them also is that more time is probably a favorable thing. So, and I know that we have recommendations to approve or not approve, and I know that it'll move forward either way. So, having said that, the sense I get is that we won't pass these motions, which is fine. But is it possible for us to, and I know we did this at another meeting, is to create another motion, just to sort of ask council or ask staff to request more time for us to potentially hash more of this out. I'm also worried, I have to confess, about this workload landing on council. Like, they know it's coming and they're aware of a lot of it, but like, if we're as gobsmacked by this as we are, then I know, like, I fear that with everything else that council deals with, this might also be like a heavy amount of work. So it could be our responsibility to sort some of this out in advance. And, it's a responsibility I think that our committee has as a recommendation committee. So I don't know if it's possible, but what I would recommend is that we deal with these motions and then we make another recommendation, and send it to council that they give us and themselves more time with this document if there's no timeline.
Absolutely. You managed to summarize what was in my head. I almost feel like we need to deal with these here and then follow them up with a fresh recommendation from the committee that we move forward with this, whether you call it a workshopping process or whatever verbiage you want to use. But I agree. I think we have to deal with what's in front of us now and wherever they land. But then I think we also need to recommend that our recommendation that we have further study, engagement, workshopping, whatever you want to call that. Councillor Ivey.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And the only thing I'll add into this is that the thing that I'm hearing around this table as much as anything, and I don't want to presume this for anybody if I've misrepresenting what anybody has thought in this room or Jane when she was with us, is that, I hear a sense of a desire to be able to get inside the documents, to be able to approve and move them through. ultimately, that's the goal. Nobody here doesn't want to see these documents not get approved, move through. But I think the uncertainty that surrounds truly understanding what's inside the crux of the documents is what has the committee somewhat reticent. Again, I'm not looking to speak for anybody except for what I think I'm hearing. And I think that's an important part of what would need to be communicated to council, that there is a desire, but this uncertainty around such a detailed, involved initiative such as this requires greater certainty to be able to, for what that's worth, as to how the motions for a new motion may come.
Great, thank you. I think that summarizes my interpretation of the mood as well. Guido?
Well, I'm going to ask the $1 million questions, and which is my job. Professional coach, they ask questions and they hope that something comes. I would involve in this moment, I call you by name, Carrie, Alex, and Will, and asking, what would workshopping this involve? I mean, I'm thinking about the real day, those 4 hours, and we are here. I have no idea what does workshopping a new plan means. If you ask me how to workshop open-ended questions in coaching, I would tell you how to do it. But in here, I am lost. So to begin to have an idea, I don't know if it's even relevant, but if we moved in that phase, what could that mean? How could that be done in order to create a motion that says we would love to do that, if anything?
Go ahead.
Through you, Chair. If I'm not speaking out of turn, I think I would put that question back to the committee on, trying to understand what your expectations of a workshop and what you would need to feel comfortable and what that would look like. I think at the May 14th meeting, that was sort of our vision of workshopping and providing an information session and, offering the opportunity to kind of work through any questions that anybody had or accept questions after the fact. So that was sort of our vision of how to workshop this. But if it's different, if the committee feels different and they want more, I think we would need some insight from the committee on that.
Mark.
Yeah, and just to comment on that, I think a lot of the stuff that is merged is great. I mean, that all makes sense. It's the changes, I think, that need to be highlighted, and the reasoning behind them, sort of thing. We can talk through it, and it makes sense. I'm sure most of it, if not 90% of it, makes sense. So, but I'm not the best I'm probably the worst in this committee on Robert's rules and that sort of thing. But I don't understand why we can't just make a motion to table these recommendations and come back to them after we seek clarity through a workshop.
Glenn, are you speaking, or Alex, were you speaking to his particular question?
I guess
Sure, I'll give you the floor.
generally, Chair, as Carrie sort of already mentioned, staff tread a fine line with the committee in not giving direction to the committee. That's not our job here. So I don't want to say anything that is giving direction. But at least how I understand it, council is the body that gives direction to staff. So if the committee would like staff to pursue a workshop or some other sort of information gathering session or further work with these documents, I would probably foresee potentially a recommendation to the body that makes the decision, so council, to direct staff to do that. That's my interpretation. But, I don't want to tread any lines here, so I'm not making a recommendation here. That's just my understanding.
And then, sorry, Alex, and so with the procedure, with tabling, that is something we can totally do.
So I'm not entirely clear on tabling. However, my understanding is that council is the body which makes decisions. And so this committee provides recommendations to council. So they could recommend to council that this be tabled or that further work is done on a workshop. I don't know what the process is in terms of this committee directing staff in terms of tabling something or an application even.
I can maybe jump in a little bit on that. Maybe I think this committee could write a recommendation report to council. The committee, not staff on behalf of the committee itself. And I, as chair, could present that to committee of the whole or council, recommending what we're discussing here today. And then that decision gets that very basic decision is, we want a comprehensive review, however we want to word it. That is the only question put before when that recommendation report is separate and distinct from these matters here. That's the one way I see doing it. I'm open to any other options. Guido.
I was actually thinking to spell out draft or a recommendation to approve or not, and then work on it with our intelligence, and so that we can say something to council and produce something. Something like PACAC recommends to council to temporarily table tonight recommendation, whatever numbers, and provide staff with directions to coordinate a clarifying workshop to be taken on a date TBD for one morning or afternoon, whereas PACAC can debate and see clarity through the whole document. I don't know if it's clear. I don't know if it's clear as mud. It's just a draft. Then we can work on it.
Perfect. Thank you. Go ahead.
Just to add to that, though, the important piece that we need beforehand to review is those changes. It just can't be thrown at us and then there's like 5 days, there's a workshop. Let us kind of get in them, pull them apart, write our questions down, come informed so that we're doing our due diligence in a smaller document during that workshop.
Thank you. You look like you were ready to go.
I think, just in my humble experience, that a report coming forwards from a committee chair that allows you the opportunity to speak on the numerous points that are kind of going around this table and provide some additional information would be beneficial. However, those were that's approved by the mayor and the CAO. So perhaps reaching out to them and kind of seeing how we could go about that process so that you could, similar to accessibility, and I know we've had DEICC come and do something similar that might be beneficial, as opposed to staff do a great job, but as opposed to a motion that's tucked in this 375 document on the top in a report as one whole package. That would be.
That's along the lines of where my brain was going. I guess that I like the idea of making a standalone recommendation report as it relates to our concerns about this, rather than just adding another 6 pages to 300 and some odd pages already. The next question I have with that is, what do we do with what's before us tonight, knowing that this is already in train to land in front of council at some point? We still need the time to get that recommendation report and present that and whatnot. So however that looks, we'd have to figure that out. But I think we deal with what's in front of us tonight, however that lands, and then do a separate recommendation report where then we can present to council our concerns and questions and whatnot. So go ahead.
So Robert's rules, you can't, nobody can be forced to make a motion that you're not willing to make. So if nobody around the table wants to make a motion, then the motion doesn't get made, because technically, if you are moving or seconding a motion, it really isn't supposed to be just to get it on the floor. You're supposed to have the intent that you approve of the motion. So if there is nobody here who is comfortable in doing so, then the motions don't get put out on the floor. That is is my perspective. I will defer to Councillor Ivy too, because he's been around this table longer, but
Age doesn't equal experience in matters like this. This is unique. But I will say that what we do know is that that whether the motions are put on the floor, voted for or against, it goes to council anyway. Council gets updated with what took place in this meeting. So we can choose to have the motions put up, and if nobody wants to make the motion, that it would go through, that nobody. Or if we put the motion on the floor and we vote it and vote it up or down, like, you let the room speak in that regard. And that's the clearest message to council that you get to make. I'm hoping, I'm saying that, I'm trying to say that without any bias one way or the other, but it seems to me that motions are here that they should at least be put on the screen and then determine what happens. If we're wrong procedurally on that, that's where I would look for staff to speak procedurally, but not looking to have them guide us in any other way except.
Yeah, I certainly agree with, for the sake of process,
What's happened
go
here is
through it.
regardless. Yeah.
And I guess the question, it comes back to time and getting a report in front of council before this arrives at council saying PACAC decided nothing. So we're going to decide now. Without context, we've just removed ourselves from the train and it goes to council. So the challenge is to get our information report, or at least the understanding that there's an information report coming, in front of council to provide some context to why PACAC didn't do anything or gave a negative recommendation. Otherwise, council just votes as they would anyway, not saying yay or nay one way or the other, but all our efforts are in vain. So I'll leave it to somebody to figure that out. Mark.
Yeah, I do like, Chair, I do like your suggestion of a report. I do have concerns about voting down the recommendation, though. I do feel if we do that, it just goes to council as PACAC did not support this motion, and then we're in the rearview mirror and life goes on with council with their part of the process, right? So I think we should be cautious not to address the recommendations, and I think we should revisit the recommendations after we're better informed.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah. And I think saying nothing speaks volumes if we have to back it up of the discussion that we've just had here now for what, a while. So we're not saying nothing, we're saying a lot, and we're saying that we're not ready to proceed with this, that we need a document that displays clearly the changes so that we can wholeheartedly, with knowledge, we all know that education and knowledge is power, to be able to then give a unanimous vote on this when we're all feel as right.
Certainly, I agree with you. My only concern is that we know what we're thinking here. In the next council meeting, if we don't say anything, council doesn't know what we're thinking around here and says our mandate is to make a decision, and in the absence of a recommendation from PACAC, we're going to make a decision. And that's certainly the right of council. I just want to make sure that we don't miss an opportunity to get our information out there. And I'm open to how that works, but certainly it's a tricky spot. We don't.
I don't know, like anyone here, I don't know if I have the solution, but my idea is I'm also feeling the pinch of Jim and Kyla. No pun intended on your last name. And and there's procedurally, So I'm thinking, what if we vote this down? It's like a sandwich. There is a no, but there is a yes. So we cannot pass this now tonight, but we would love this. So we make the recommendation. It's true that silence is sometimes the best answer, but as the chair says, we also need to say something. Otherwise, we do not express a clear direction. And what we are aiming here is clarity. in the whole in the whole philosophical is we want clarity. So we should aim for giving clarity ourselves for what we want to see happen, right? Because it's hard for council to decide if we say, I don't want to go to the church, I don't want to go to the municipality, I don't want to go to the train station. And they ask, where do you want to go? Oh, I want to go here. So if we say, this is not in this moment, but we would love to have that in order to fully pass on flying color, to me, that is the best direction, is no and yes. I don't know if I'm making sense. So I personally would read the recommendation and I myself would vote no. And then I will make a new recommendation. If that procedurally helps the Roberts rule, okay, I don't know. I'm not an expert in Roberts rule.
And just to complicate that, Chair, what does abstaining do?
It's a yes.
It's a yes.
Sorry.
Yeah. That's my question.
That's my concern. I mean, it is any member's right to abstain at any time, and certainly not suggesting people vote one way or the other way, vote, don't vote. But my only concern is our role is an advisory committee. In the absence of advice, council will make a decision based on what council wants to decide, and that's certainly their purview to do so. So we have to be careful in assuming that if they don't hear from us, they're going to reach out and say, "Why didn't you say something?" That's optimistic. I don't think it's realistic, but I don't know. I think the challenge is do we deal with the motions in front of us as they are and submit a secondary a recommendation report? That's all feasible. It's just this is going to end up before council before any recommendation report would get in front of council. Just because this is already it's already ahead. So I don't know. That's where I'm struggling. Yeah.
Could we, do the process, do what we have to do, and then sort of request to council that they delay their decision? A separate motion. It's like to consider delaying your decision, because there's an impending report or, something. Things happen so quickly in this municipality. It's hard to keep up with it all. So we're all trying to understand the process because, and I'm going to reiterate, we're all on board with this. Like the work that you've all done is incredible. It's just these little struggles that we're having with little things. But I agree with Guido. I think that maybe we should read the recommendations and vote on them. And I know, Jim, you mentioned this as well. And this allows us an opportunity, to sort of have our say that way, but then follow it up with some sort of recommendation that that emphasizes the time frame and the crunch that we feel and that we worry that maybe council will feel as well. It's not a recommendation that I have written or anything like that, but I think that we should read these recommendations. And also in doing that, we get staff off the hook and then we don't have to bother them anymore with questions and things like that. And we can continue our debate after we read these recommendations, but we've spent so much time talking about it that we haven't talked about it. and that's disappointing in a way because we all want to talk about it, but we can't because we're trying to figure out how to talk about it. So my recommendation would be that we read these recommendations, vote, and then follow it up with a recommendation that is a message to council as much as it is a recommendation that the brakes might need to be applied a little bit here in this process. I don't know if that can get us through this or buy time or.
I agree with you, Tim. I think we've well documented that we have concerns of the magnitude and our ability to digest it in an effective manner. I agree. I think we should deal with these that are in front of us, and wherever that lands is where it lands. I think there's probably value in what you suggested, Tim, is along with this, we make a recommendation, whether it's appropriate to do it at this meeting, sort of to give some context to what we've done. I think we would still be valued to generate a standalone information report, a recommendation report to council. All we'd be trying to accomplish with something like you had suggested, Tim, was sort of to pump the brakes for a minute, just so we can sort of recommend a pause in the process while we submit a recommendation report for consideration, which, ultimately the recommendation report goes to council. Council decides whether they want to go that way. So, but I think for our purposes, we'd probably as a group feel better if we could get them to give us time to manage that. Now, I guess understanding the timelines, it being June, July, I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, I don't think you meet in August.
Council does, actually, none of the committees meet in
Right.
August historically, so this June and July is what's.
So we'd really be looking September before we'd be getting anything in front of council, really.
Well, council meets in 10 days' time, so there's the first. What's happened at this meeting will go to council on June the 23rd. Okay, and so that'll be the result of what's in front of us. And if you're, well, I think I don't want to take this longer. Let's go through this. And then once we've gone through this, there could be discussion afterwards, I think.
Yeah.
Relating to key points that you may want to, and that could end up becoming a.
Absolutely. So with that, and in the interest of moving forward, we've pretty much covered what we wanted to. There is a recommendation before the committee, if anybody would like to read that.
Chair.
Oh, go ahead.
I see Jane's back. Did you want to catch her up?
How long, sorry, Jane, how much have you missed?
An hour. So you don't need to. I knew how I was going to vote on this anyway, so no problem.
Okay, so I guess just I'll catch you up to where I think you might have. The consensus around the table seems to be that we'd like a little bit more time to take an in-depth, maybe a group dynamic kind of dive into this. So we're going to look at the recommendations that are in the recommendation report in front of us and go where they may. And after we've dealt with these, we'll discuss with how we could look at recommending to council that we workshop or how that would look. But our goal now is to deal with what's in front of us here now. So great. Okay. Does anyone care to read that?
Sure. Do I? That PACHAC recommends the council give first reading and holds a public hearing to consider adopting the new regional municipal planning strategy and repeals the Town of Windsor Municipal Planning Strategy 2005, the Town of Hantsport Municipal Planning Strategy 2010, and the Municipality of the District of West End's Municipal Planning Strategy 2008.
I will second that.
All right. All those in favor of that recommendation? All those opposed? Motion is unanimously defeated. I believe there's another recommendation. Care to read that one, Guido?
That PACHAC recommends the council give first reading and holds a public hearing to consider adopting the new regional land use bylaw and repeals the Town of Windsor Land Use Bylaw 2005, the Town of Hantsport Land Use Bylaw 2012, and the Municipality of the District of West End's Land Use Bylaw 2008.
Is there a seconder for that?
I will second it.
Okay. All those in favor, raise your hands. Opposed? Motion is unanimously defeated. And on to the next one.
That PACHAC recommends the council give first reading and holds a public hearing to consider adopting the new regional subdivision bylaw and repeals the Town of Windsor Subdivision Bylaw 2012, the Town of Hantsport Subdivision Bylaw 2010, and the Municipality of the District of West End Subdivision Bylaw 2008.
I will second this.
That. All right. All those in favor, raise their hands. All those opposed? Motion defeated. All right. So I guess we've dealt with the issues in front of us. Do we want to look at tacking a recommendation as Tim suggested onto this? As we said, just to sort of get it in, attach some context to that. And then obviously the onus, we should really follow through with, if we're going to do a recommendation report, probably get on that sooner than later.
Yeah.
Well, Chair, if I may, we are called an advisory committee. So in my opinion, philosophically, we are useless if we don't give an advice. So if we don't trace a direction, so I think we need to create a clear few lines that says what we want to see happen.
So I think what we want to happen is for council to delay their decision until we can provide a recommendation report. Is that what I'm hearing from people around the table?
I think that's the context, perhaps in this, it would be to asking them to delay a decision. And in our recommendation report, that's probably where we could flesh out how we want, if there's workshopping or whatever. That I think if you were looking for something here, I would keep it very concise.
Okay.
What do you have, Tim?
Okay, it's not very good. I don't do this very often, but help me and help me with the wording, and then we'll change it. So, so PACAC recommends that council consider delaying their decision regarding, I don't know what we call all of this. The plan review until a recommendation report is received from PACAC.
It sounds clear to me. Certainly, if anybody has anything they'd like to add or massage, certainly. Councillor Ivey.
Although it'll be included probably as part of the report anyway, you may just want to preamble it with, committee generally felt or sought the identification of changes made in the documents in some fashion and potential workshop on the material such that it is recommending to council. And so it's just a preamble so they know what it is that we're saying, that having had 3 motions on the floor and having defeated them, that it's not that it was done without the intent of working its way through. I think that's
I think that's important that we even a line or two, as you mentioned, just to contextualize that it's not like it's not a popular uprising here. It's not an us versus them thing. We're just asking for some clarity and an opportunity to clarify that. So I think adding something along the lines of what Councillor Ivey mentioned to that would advance our cause. Guido.
I would say, actually, I would state that committee is more than willing to move forward and eager to approve the document, but we feel, and I would use the word eager, feeling is not a word good for something like this, but we need a workshop that highlights the change the word need in whatever motivational word you want, that a workshop to highlight the changes and discuss it around the table specifically onto this in a group setting.
Mark.
Yeah, just to comment, not looking to massage, Chair. I'm just a comment. I've been on the committee for a while now, but when we do have amendments or bylaw changes or anything come to us, procedural wise, we always have a presentation. So what we're asking for is nothing that's outside of what regular procedure is. So I just want to make that clear. We're not asking for something different or special here. We're just asking for the presentation to go with the recommendation that we have received.
I think at this, I agree with you there. I think at this point, what we're asking for is a pause. That's all we're asking. That's what we want council to see is, and that preamble as to, there's the high level of why we're, it's not a protest vote. It's, we were, otherwise it gets framed in a whole different context, which isn't helpful. So, but I do agree that, when we, in the broader recommendation report, that's where we have the opportunity to drill into the details and our detail, our concerns and things. But I think the first order of business for us is to ask the council steps back and allows time for that report. And then council can decide what they want to do with the recommendation report, but at least we have an opportunity to do that. So I think what Kim had combined with what Councillor Ivy added, if we could get that into a tidy little paragraph, that might be helpful. Go ahead.
I can request a summary of all changes to the NPS and followed up with a workshop opportunity with planning staff to provide clarity and understanding of the updated NPS. Because in summary, that's 4.
Oh, that's
Yeah, so, and this can be wordsmiths, but
yes.
so PACAC requests a summary of all changes to the NPS and followed up with a workshop opportunity with planning staff to provide clarity and understanding of the updated NPS.
Does that, Guido?
I like it because he's asking what we want, a workshop, and is implying the pause. But if we are talking just about the pausing, we are missing the train, because what we want is to workshop this and see clearly the changes explained to us or highlighted. So in my opinion, that motion nails it.
If I could suggest that where you're saying MPS, you probably also want to say the land use bylaws, 2 separate documents, but both of them integrated and linked.
Councillor Pinch.
Just a thought, just because the more wordy emotion gets, like we all know, we've seen emotion with 30 whereases. Yes, that perhaps some of that stuff could go within the report that's going to be coming forwards as to like what the concerns were and how you foresee those concerns, potentially being mitigated and working, collaboratively.
I think there's value in making sure that we get our broad point out there, but I tend to agree that for this, the initial here, knowing that it's going to be followed up with a fulsome recommendation report, where there's your chance to get into the whereases and the abuts and what everything else. But I think we need to provide some context here so that I think what you had there sort of nails all our points. I think what we want to capture as well is that whether we have to indicate that there's a recommendation report forthcoming in that little motion, or I think it probably wouldn't hurt if we could somehow work in that there is a recommendation report coming to council detailing the concerns.
Point of clarity, I think this was just kind of to address the preamble of, we're not just coming for a request, we're coming with a solution, and this is a solution that we're looking for. So that council doesn't have to wonder what we're looking for. This is what we're looking for within that pause.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Doesn't necessarily be emotion; it's just more of that preamble. Thank you.
May I ask Beth to reread this slowly, piece by piece, and we all take a moment and see if we need to insert or take out pieces to massage it, because I think we have it there, or really close, and then we plug in or plug out pieces slowly.
Sure. PACAC requests a summary of all changes to the MPS and land use bylaw and followed up with a workshop opportunity with planning staff to provide clarity and understanding of the updated MPS and land use bylaw. And I don't know if you want the subdivision in there, if it's just the MPS and the land use bylaw. That's the only thing. Because we had 3 motions here.
Yeah, I believe the subdivision was coming in new. Carrie, am I right on that? So I don't think there's changes to that per se from a regional standpoint, or am I? incorrect on that
The subdivision bylaw is also a new draft bylaw.
version, so it's
Yeah.
the same.
There's
They're
no
all
changes.
new documents.
All right, so to wrap this up, with that, are we still planning to submit a standalone recommendation report, or has our brief recommendation become our recommendation report? What's the will of the group? Go ahead, Jane.
Thank you. This is for Carrie, and I apologize if this question has been asked and answered. For the council meeting in 2 weeks, is this report going as a recommendation to council whether or not we recommend it?
So the recommendations made, so it's not a positive recommendation, that'll be brought forward to the next council meeting.
But your report is going to the next council meeting whether or not we had recommended to go forward, or now that we've not recommended go forward, it's still going to council in 2 weeks?
Yes.
So that's my question about how do you circumvent this going to council the way it is, and we all wanting to do something a little bit differently. I think that's a little bit of a problem.
I agree, Jane. I think that we've been that's why we were hoping to try to get effect a pause, because this is going to council regardless of what we decide tonight. As Carrie suggested, it will just go forward with a negative recommendation from PACAC, but ultimately it goes to council regardless. So without context and without the ability for us to get our rationale for this vote in front of it, it just arrives in council as a negative recommendation from PACAC, and then council will vote on it as they see fit. So I agree that is a reality. Councillor Ivey.
I suggest that you could ask or direct that the proposed motion be appended to the report going forward to council. So you'd have the three motions, defeated, negative, and then that committee has asked that council consider lead into your preamble and the motion that serves to. That would be my possible suggestion. So you've got it all in one report. It's all there together, but you may think of other ways.
Go ahead.
Maybe speaking out of turn here, but I was a municipal councillor and a chair of PAC in Berwick. And I can't help think that we've got councillors here in this room that have voted against, that have heard what we said. And hopefully that voice is not heard at the council table. And if it means us all having to go sit at council, I'll go.
Agreed. I think there's the understanding that, obviously the resident members here and the members of council that are here have indicated their position by their vote. Those who aren't here, they'll vote as they see fit based on how much they've digested a 300-page document, whether that's a 10-minute conversation in the parking lot before you come in, or whether it's exhaustive reading at home. Who knows? Not pointing one finger one way or the other. It's just it is what it is. It's a big document, and so I agree. I think I like what Jim's saying is if we can append this, basically what you've got there, to this, so when it arrives at council, there's our ask and there's context. Otherwise, all we've done is made a negative recommendation. So council will just go forward as they choose, which they can do anyway. But certainly, we want to make sure that what we've discussed here is captured. I think what you have there does a good job of that, and if we could append that to our recommendations, I think that. And then whether we move forward with as much haste as possible with a broader recommendation report and whatnot. At least this gets our foot in the door that we're requesting something happen. So I don't know whether the desire would be to go forward with a broader report to present to council and then or just do this. But I think certainly doing what we're planning here tonight as a first step, I think is important, and I think we're in a good spot to do that. Guido.
So how do we connect these two things properly, linguistically? How do we append and use this phrase? And do we need to do two motions, or we just need one with both items in?
Go ahead.
You could throw a whereas in there. Whereas PACAC will say it with the commentary, and then you make your motion after that.
That's why they invented commas.
Excuse me, Chair.
Oh, sorry, Jane, go ahead.
So this is a question for Carrie again, because when this gets to council in its form, the question, and even if we attach our new recommendation to it about what we want to achieve, the question will be then asked staff, is this something that you have the capacity of doing? And so I wonder if Carrie is able to answer that question for us tonight, instead of waiting for 2 weeks for council to ask them that question.
Through you, Chair. I guess it would depend on what this workshop entails. I think we could have capacity, but timing would be kind of the essential question here. So, doing kind of a red line document, track changes to try to identify every single thing, that would probably take a considerable amount of time. And with everything else we have on the go, it wouldn't be something that we could turn around really fast. So capacity probably, but the timeline wouldn't be a quick turnaround, I guess is what I'm saying.
Perfect. Thank you. Councilor Ivey.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say, to the response, if I could, that, yeah, the only way that council can or does respond is to motions. So the same thing with us looking to have staff directed to do something, it'll only come through a motion of council to direct staff. So depending on what happens with that. So I think to the best of our ability, given where we're at with this, that we look to get the preamble in motion as suggested, appended to the report with whereas is a good suggestion, whereas the committee, and I'm not going to muddle it with the words here, and then get that forward for the committee to make a decision on, and look to get it appended to the report. And just to the early, we're there. There's others that are here listening. And so there's clearly this conversation that's been heard, and the minutes will be captured and it'll be noted in the report as happens with every item that comes before this committee. I feel safe in saying that.
Perfect. Thank you. So, whereas we've come to a decision, would anyone like to tackle the whereas? Be comfortable putting the verbiage together, and we'll put it into a motion that we can have a vote on.
Whereas PACAC requests a summary. Do we want something before that? Sorry, in regards to, can I just start here? Okay. Whereas PACAC is requesting a summary of all changes to the MPS and land use bylaw, and followed up with a workshop opportunity with planning staff to provide clarity and understanding of the updated MPS and land use bylaw.
And that's the recommendation for you. That's really best recommendation. That's excellent.
Okay.
You're up then. What's that? You're up. Oh, so that's why I read my motion. Oh, but oh gosh, where is it? The motion that I have is that PACAC recommends that council consider delaying their decision about, what was it called again? Oh my gosh, the plan review uh until like we can do those.
And then whereas.
The council considered delaying their decision about the plan review. Yeah, now I have to turn it into this, right?
Yeah.
No.
No.
Oh, okay. Okay. So PACAC recommends that council consider delaying their decision about the plan review until to allow a more comprehensive recommendation supporting the work of staff. Is that okay? Or I don't remember what I said before. What am I missing?
Not a comprehensive recommendation to support the work of council
Oh,
and staff.
Yeah.
Both.
Is that what we want though? Is that what we want? We really just need words to move this along, right? And then we want them to read what that is. The whereas. Mhm. Okay, so I'll start with the
I'll just interject here.
Please.
It's 8:05.
Yeah.
The hour's late. It's 8:05. It's really great. I'm out of rhymes. Would it be helpful if we took 5-10 minutes and maybe gave somebody a chance to type this out? Then we can see something on the screen. Everybody can come back with a fresh set of eyes.
Yeah.
So is everybody up for 10 minutes? We'll reconvene at 1:15 if that works for everyone. Great. Thank you. Well, all right, everybody. Thank you. Welcome back after our little break. And I see we have a whereas in front of us. Wonderful. So whereas that we have a whereas on the screen, would anyone like to read that? We don't.
Then I am the reader. Whereas PACHAC requests a summary of all changes to the MPS and land use bylaw and followed up with a workshop opportunity with planning staff to provide clarity and understanding of the updated MPS and land use bylaw to make its best recommendation to Council. Therefore, be it resolved that PACAC is requesting that Council considers delaying the plan review to allow additional time to provide an in-depth and comprehensive recommendation.
Anyone want to second that?
I will second that.
All those in favor of that motion? Motion passed unanimously. Thank you everyone for their work for that, and thank you for the whereas scribes, everybody involved with that. Wonderful. So now we are, where are we? Okay. Lost track of where we were here. We're business arising from the minutes. And then business arising from the public information. I believe Alex has something about the Ponic Road Development Agreement.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just I guess to follow up here with PAC that we did have a public information meeting for a multi-unit residential development totaling 88 units on Ponic Road in 3 Mile Plains. We had a fair turnout for the public information meeting, and the applicant and the developer were in attendance of that, and the applicant gave a presentation for it, outlining some of the high-level development specifics and details. And some of the broad comments we got from the public were on firefighting, specifically around fire hydrants, one way in, one way out issues, traffic, flooding issues, wildlife concerns, parking density, and some landscaping concerns, wastewater concerns. And I think that generally covers the comments from the public. So just an update on that. We'll be sending out inquiries to all of the subject matter experts. So that hasn't been done yet. And the reason why it hasn't been done yet is because we wanted to get all of the feedback from the public and include them in our inquiries when we send them out. So that way we can get the best answers back from the subject matter experts. So that's my summary of the public information meeting that happened on June 3rd.
Perfect. Thank you.
Chair,
Tim.
I don't know if it's appropriate to ask a question. I just have a question about development agreements, and I don't know if it's the time to ask or not. It's just it's a question that Mark brought up many months ago about language and development agreement, because the first line of every sort of proposal or whatever we see is that the municipality may enter into a development agreement. So my question is, there's clearly a point in this process where we as a committee and everyone involved start to apply all the rules, that surround a development agreement. Is this municipality within its rights to say no to a development agreement from the onset, or are they required to prove that they can't meet criteria for an agreement that they've not agreed to?
Great question. Through you, Chair, I don't know if I'm going to be able to fully answer this, but I'll do my best here. the our policy within our documents, which is council's policy, so it's approved by council. Staff operate with those policies in mind. So if somebody makes an application and they cite the policies that are within our current documents, it is our responsibility to review that document. So usually our process is a little different than how it would normally function, but generally we would take that in as an inquiry to start. So we would do like a preliminary meeting and see if there's any major red flags within the policy and the criteria there. But essentially, if they can prove that their application meets our criteria, council has to consider it. So, at the end of the day, it's up to council to make that decision if it does meet the criteria or not. Staff as well as PAC only make recommendations. Staff don't make any decisions. But it is essentially it's a responsibility to see to that application if it appears to meet the requirements.
Perfect. Thank you. Guido. Nope. Guido has nothing. All right. Nothing further on that. That's great. No further questions on that development agreement. Then we'll move to the file updates that we have listed on the agenda here. Are there any questions on those, Mark?
I do. I have one on the Bear Lake one for planning. As everyone's aware, I think by now, the Bear Lake decision was overturned by the, what is it, URAB board? Is that what they're called now?
Scotia.
They changed.
NSCRB.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, it's been overturned. I just want clarity on what the ruling is when it comes to the development agreement. Like what I read was it said that we are to enter into a development agreement with Everwind for the Bear Lake project. And my question is more drilled down to, does entering into a development agreement with them mean that we have to give them exactly what they asked for? Or are we still able to have considerations on that development agreement?
Through you, Chair. So the board's ruling essentially approves of the development agreement as is, and sometimes they'll make amendments to it. So in this case, they did, which was to add the requirement that the secondary egress road be gated. So that was the only decision or the order from the board to change the development agreement. So that's the only thing that we can go in and incorporate. Otherwise, it's approved and then it'll be signed and sent to the registry.
Okay. And the reason for my questioning on that is because I just have concerns that, and I accept that if that's, procedure law or whatever. But when we had council make a decision, and a councillor at that point has determined that they're going to vote no against it, there's no need for them to follow up on recommending considerations and stuff to the development agreement. So I feel like that step gets overlooked where stormwater management isn't, we recently had children and citizens die because of stormwater, and it should be something that we should be working into our development agreements on a more serious note. And I'm sure the councillors would have, if they knew that this was moving forward, they would have asked for a certain level of stormwater management. Fire prevention is another one. I mean, we were banned from walking in the woods last year. These droughts aren't going away. It's going to be equally as dry. And asking for fire suppression in the NASA wasn't a bad ask for them, right? So, is there no opportunity at this point to go back and make good recommendations through negotiation with Everwind to improve on that development agreement for our communities?
No, so the decision from NASRAB is a final decision. So the development agreement is essentially approved by that decision. So overriding council's decision.
Okay, and have we received their lease agreement with the Crown yet?
No.
So that still hasn't been, we haven't received documentation on that for the development agreement.
While the development agreement was essentially on hold because it wasn't approved, I'm assuming they held up their, progress on the development. So.
Okay, are we, when that comes in, am I able to review that lease agreement as a committee member?
That's a great question. I don't believe that would necessarily be public information.
It's public land though.
So it would be it's a lease agreement between the province and a private developer. So that would be something that you could request from the province.
It's a lease agreement between the developer and the public, which is us.
Chair, I think that's all I can say.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, I appreciate it.
Sure. I don't know. Let's get again whether that's a FOIPOP thing through the province or
I'm
probably the path you'd have to take for that.
Yeah, thank
you. All right. If there's nothing further on any of the other files, we do have the building and development activity reports at the end of the documents here. If there's any questions or comments on those. There being none for that, we don't have any notices that I'm aware of from adjacent municipal units. No members of the public remain in the gallery, so there are no public comments.
Oh, I do have a public comment.
Feel free, Mark.
Sorry, I don't.
Are you going to put on you're going to put on your public hat now?
I jumped in the public chair, but I'll
sit there.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to keep us here any later, but I just wanted to make a comment because it really resonated with me. Recently, I don't know if any of you had seen the Avenview kids had a bring your tractor to school day. It was phenomenal. These young farmers is what they are, shined up their tractors at home, and they all met in town here and did a little parade up to the school. And I know most of these kids through the 4-H community, and they're great kids in the agricultural community. But I always speak to agricultural land, and I just want to reiterate, when I see these kids, it shows me the importance of the future of agriculture in Hants County, and they are our future stewards of the agricultural land. So when we're talking about losing agricultural land and the ability to farm and feed our community and stuff, it's these kids that are the next stewards of the land. So it was just wonderful to see them, and they're a big part of our community. And I can see that event. The mayor was right there with them, and I can really see this event growing into something much larger next year. So anyway, kudos to them. So it was really nice to see.
Absolutely. I second that as well. And I know Jim was there taking some pictures as well. Wonderful. All good stuff. So our next meeting date will be July 9th, 2026. So we give us a bit more time to maybe digest the documents and make some notes and things like that, and move for adjournment.